Hi cozy people. So I have EDS and I used to question this diagnosis all the time. In fact, when I was questioning this, I was actually diagnosed with HSD and I was going to do a video about it all those years ago. We're talking, I don't even know, but it's quite a few years ago that I was thinking of doing a video about this. And I spoke about it with my friend Izzy, just sort of as like a conversation. I didn't tell her that I was going to do a video. And Izzy ended up saying, oh my god, that's a great video idea. And she did the video. And I just sort of left it because I thought, you know, everything that needs to be said has been said. Even though it wasn't by me, I was just sort of happy to leave it as it was. But recently, I don't know why, this idea has sort of been floating back into my mind again. Yeah, I don't remember what the trigger was, but I ended up just sitting down and writing out a plan for this video and just decided that I did want to talk about it. And the thing is, I always planned to talk about this at some point, but as it happened, as time went on, my EDS diagnosis fit more and more, so it made less sense for me to do it until recently. I came to a point where I became very comfortable in my EDS diagnosis, and actually that made me feel like it was the right time to talk about it because I thought I can come at it from a different angle. So before I was going to talk about, you know, I don't know, it's just different now. I feel a lot more secure in that diagnosis, and so I feel like I can come at it from a different angle. So all that to say, we're going to be discussing in this video what would happen if I didn't have EDS all along. You know, I've made this whole channel, made this big song and dance about having EDS, and then I didn't have it. Like, what would that mean for you guys? What would that mean for me? What if that niggling thought was right and I didn't have EDS? The first thing, I've got like a spasm in my leg at the moment. Let me just readjust. Yeah, so the first thing I wrote down is that if I didn't have EDS, all of my POTS videos would be completely unaffected because there are no ifs, buts or vaginas about it. I have POTS. This is something that I wrote. I wrote that joke into my little plan of this video. Yeah, there's no ifs, buts or vaginas about it. I have POTS because the testing for POTS is quantifiable and you can't really get it wrong. If it shows up that you have POTS in a POTS test, then you have it and that's sort of it. You've seen in my videos where I've used my pulse ox on my finger. I mean, whether I have POTS or not is not up for debate. So all of those videos would be completely unaffected, and it would be a similar story for MCAS. Not quite the same because, yeah, like I can't prove to you that I have MCAS in the same way that you could. Prove is such a horrible word, but you know, there's proof, I guess, that I have POTS. So even if I didn't have EDS, it's undeniable that I have POTS, and so all of that would stay the same. But then when we look at the actual EDS videos, what would it mean for those? I need to take a breath. I was going to say break and then breath at the same time. Well, actually it wouldn't mean a whole lot for those either, because in the videos that I'm sharing information, that information was heavily researched. I don't give information without checking my sources. So yeah, if I gave information about EDS, it doesn't really matter whether I had it or not because I was still sharing information from legitimate sources. And then in terms of my symptoms, well, those symptoms, it doesn't really matter if the cause was different. Yeah, it just doesn't really matter. Like a person is arguably, sorry, we just had to take a break because of the neighbours. But I was saying with symptoms, you're more likely to relate to someone with the same symptoms as you rather than the same condition. So one of my best friends, me and her have overlapping symptoms but with different causes, and we can relate to each other very well, and we're aware of the differences, and there are differences, but that overlap of symptoms is something that we bond over. And I think it'd be similar for the channel. Like, if you felt like you could relate to me, that still wouldn't change, because those symptoms would have been my symptoms and your symptoms would have been your symptoms. It wouldn't actually matter that there was a different cause. And actually, that's something that I really try to encourage on my channel. A lot of you are undiagnosed, and I really hope that you feel validated here and that you don't feel like you have to have a diagnosis to feel like you can relate to people. I remember before I was diagnosed, I felt like I was the only person going through what I was going through, and then just finding out that other people were going through similar things, that was the validating thing. It wasn't that we all had the same label for this thing, it was just that we were going through the same thing. Sorry, this has got clouded. In my mind it was going to be very clear cut, talking about all these different things. I know that you can't hear it, but the neighbours are really loud right now, and I'm finding it very hard to think. Let me have a look at my notes. Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. So in my head, this wasn't going to be as fluid as it has been. I had one bullet point where I said the EDS knowledge that I shared is still right and accurate because I followed the sources. And then I've also said that my experience of my symptoms is still right and accurate too, even if the cause is different. So yeah, I didn't mean to like intertwine those things, but I guess it doesn't really matter. And then the next bullet point I wrote is the people I've helped with their diagnoses and with their medication and aids and everything like that, nothing changes. It doesn't matter if I've helped them with a condition that was different to mine, because they would have still got the right diagnosis and medication and all of those things. I'm hesitant to talk about it with other people, but one of the things I'm most proud of is how many people have been diagnosed because of my videos, and how many people are on the right medication because of my videos. And the reason I'm hesitant to talk about that is because someone might mistake me for, you know, thinking that I've put them on the medication, which of course I can't do. And of course I can't diagnose people. And so I don't want people to think that I've been giving out medical advice, because that's not what I aim to do. I just aim to share information and people can do with it what they please, if that makes sense. It's a very tricky line between not giving medical like advice, but then still, yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't want people to take that the wrong way, because obviously, like, I'm not putting people on the medication or giving them the diagnoses, but I'm really proud that I've sent a lot of people in the right direction and raised awareness about different things. And so if it turned out that after all of this, like 100 people had an EDS diagnosis because of me, and I didn't even turn out to have EDS, so what? You know, it doesn't actually matter, because at least those people are on the right path. And it doesn't matter, like, it just wouldn't matter, is what I came up with. And then equally, as much as it would still be valid for me to have helped other people, this community still would have helped me. I'm just going to see what I wrote here. So I said this community still helped me, and I still felt less alone, and I would continue to, as a lot of my symptoms are the same. So yeah, I think that sums it up really well. Like, even if I didn't have EDS, it wouldn't really matter, because I found people that I can relate to. And as I said, like, the label is not the important thing. The cause of what's going on with me is not even the important thing either. The only important thing is that you can relate to people about the symptoms. And I know that there will be, yeah, I mean, you can tip that on its head, because some of my friends that have EDS, they have different symptoms to me and we still get on. But then, yeah, that's like relating to the whole, yeah. What I'm trying to say is that sometimes it's like beyond the symptoms as well. Just the experience of being chronically ill and having limitations is something you can bond over. And so it's not necessarily symptoms, it's not necessarily a diagnosis, it's not necessarily anything other than the wider experience of it. And so I was saying, like, symptoms are the most important thing, but I guess you could argue that even the symptoms aren't the important thing, which then begs the question, what is it that we're relating to? Maybe it's something more broad, like having limitations. I don't know. This wasn't in the notes. This part was not in the notes. Let's go back to the notes, because the notes are doing very well at keeping me on track. And then I wrote, I'd be grateful that I found people I could relate to and that I didn't feel as confused or as in the dark for a while. And then I've got a lovely little analogy. I seem to love analogies. I mean, no, I know that I do. I'm just thinking of analogies and different things all the time. But I wrote this quite a few months ago and I completely forgot about it. And when I read it, I just thought, that sums it up so well. So we're going to take a break because I need to just like something. I don't know if it's my heart rate or something. Something is like out of whack at the minute. Let's have a look. So I'm going to take a break and then I'm going to read the analogy and then that'll be it for the video. Oh yeah, it is the heart rate. What are we sitting at? 118. 118 feels a bit crap, not gonna lie. 120. See, I told you. This is just because I've been sitting up and talking. So we're just gonna take a break here and hope that it comes down. This is how we're doing. I can't even read this right now. Okay, I'm actually going to have to lie down because normally just sitting and not talking would get this back under control. But it's being very slow, so I'm going to lie down and then I'll come back. Okay, so I'm doing a bit better now. Not a whole lot better, but there's not a lot of the video left, so I think we can get through. So the last point that I was talking about was being grateful that I'd found people that I could relate to, and that I didn't feel as confused or in the dark for a while. And then in my notes I wrote, it doesn't matter that the light was coming into someone else's room, it still shone into mine and brightened the darkness. So much so that I barely noticed the light was coming in through the adjoining door and not from the bulb above my head. And what I didn't know didn't hurt me. Not even a little bit, not even at all. So that analogy basically means, yeah, what I said at the end, what I didn't know didn't hurt me. I still found community, and even though it was, if I didn't have EDS, it would be like I'd found someone else's answer and not my own. But actually, that didn't hurt me. Like, if that was the case, it didn't hurt me. Like, the medication I was put on was on a symptom basis, so it would have still been right, even though we'd attributed it to the wrong cause. And the community I had found, there was nothing wrong with that because we still related on symptoms and, as I said, the wider experience of disability. And actually, even though I would have had the wrong answers, you know, I didn't know it was the wrong answers, so that didn't hurt me either. Yeah, there's so much in that analogy. I feel like I could just go on about it forever, like everything that means. Like, even if I found someone else's answers, would it really matter? No. And yeah, in the wider sense of the question, what if I didn't have EDS? Would it matter? No. I said to someone recently something about making a big song and dance of something, and they were like, there's nothing wrong with a song and dance though. Or like, they said something like, oh, but you know, you can still enjoy song and dance, which obviously that doesn't directly relate to this situation, but essentially, what if I didn't have EDS? You know, it wouldn't make a difference to a whole lot. Nothing would really change in any sense. I'm very aware that speaking in this way, I feel like I've almost talked myself into like feeling like I don't have it now, because it sounds like I'm making this video from someone who's been misdiagnosed, which that's not what this video is. I am still diagnosed. This whole video was just like an interesting look into what would happen if that diagnosis was wrong, and essentially not a whole lot. And yeah, that's that. So I'm going to leave it there. I'm feeling very jittery with my heart rate. There's different like levels of unwell. Like when I'm nauseous, I'm like, oh my god, I feel so sick, I feel so unwell. But when my heart rate is bad, unwell is like a weird word for it. Anyway, I'm feeling very jittery and like from the heart rate. So I'll see you in the next video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.